Document entered into evidence. Inquest 2014-348. Journal of Decedent Elaine Anderson, recovered from computer hard drive on property.
March 1st, 2014. We moved in today. I'm so psyched about the possibilities of this house and property. The old farmhouse needs a lot of TLC after 150 years, but it's well-built stone with solid rafters, hand-chiseled from the wood of the chestnut trees that used to be so abundant around here. I had the great idea of starting a journal about our life in this house. Maybe 150 years from now, this will be part of the house's history that someone else will enjoy listening to. Doug has so many great ideas of how to renovate the interior. His job and commute doesn't allow him a lot of hours at home for hands-on work, but his firm is doing so well that there should be no trouble hiring top-quality craftsmen from the nearby Amish community to do the work, in keeping with the historical character of the house. So, he's in charge of the house, and the grounds and outbuildings are all mine. There's plenty of room for a victory garden, so we can have fresh produce all summer. I want to learn how to do home canning so we can enjoy the bounty of our land all winter, too. They have classes in canning and other home crafts at the Y in the center of town. I'm sure I'll want to attend plenty of those in order to get to meet people. The homes are so spread out around here, I can't just walk next door to have a cup of coffee with a neighbor. Sasha, our lab, is fun to take out for her walks, but she's not much of a conversationalist. Tomorrow I'll stake off the garden and I'll get started preparing the soil. March 4th. Well, I will be getting plenty of exercise this spring. The soil hasn't been cultivated in years. It's packed pretty hard, and some of the weeds are more like small trees and shrubs. The roots are thick and penetrate deeply into the subsoil, and now I know why they chose to make the house out of stone. No shortage of big rocks here either. I've read about how much better it is to do no-till gardening, so I'm giving it a go. But I'm not sure how much of a difference it makes with all the digging I'm doing trying to excavate these roots. Sasha is amusing herself finding little animals to chase, so she's not in the way, fortunately. There are workers in the kitchen putting in new cabinets and counters, and the bathroom in the master bedroom is being retiled already. The rest of the house can be done in stages, but those areas really had to be done first to make the place livable. March 10th. Well, the excavating has become a little more interesting. It looks like part of the area I chose for my garden was used for dumping family trash. There are old bits of pottery and glass. I am saving the pieces in case I can put together a whole item. Maybe there will be something valuable. I won't have time to research much until I get the garden planted. The last frost date is nearly here, and I'd wanted to get my lettuce planted good and early. March 30th. Eureka! I think I actually found some little buried treasure worth keeping among all the bits of trash. It's a tiny bottle of a beautiful cobalt blue color. The outside is a bit roughened by being buried so long, so I don't think I'll be going on Antiques Roadshow. But it's still quite pretty. It would look cute on the shelf over the sink where the sun comes in. It took me forever to get all the mud out of the inside of the tiny bottle, though, and I had to rub around the raised lettering on the outside of the bottle for a long time to clean the muddy clay off the closed portions of the E's and O's. I used my fingertips instead of a brush, so I don't think I did any additional damage to the glass surface. It's still hard to read. Something like Hunyan's Minted Bromo? Or maybe Munyons? I guess a bromo was an antacid? They must not have had that much heartburn back in the day if they only needed a bottle this tiny to cure it. The garden is ready for planting. I picked up some seeds last week to start planting this afternoon. Green beans, navy beans, lettuce, beets, carrots, corn. I've already planned the layout for the tomatoes, peppers, zucchini, and eggplants that I will buy in flats from the nursery. I had been disappointed that Doug wanted to put off getting pregnant until we had the construction inside the house finished, though I knew he was right about not wanting me exposed to anything nasty while we started scraping paint and tearing down water-stained ceilings. But planting this garden is definitely keeping my nesting instincts well satisfied. This is actually a lot of fun. April 8th. Ugh, I'm getting annoyed. I've had some dirt caught under my fingernail since I cleaned off that bottle. I'm used to the dirt, of course, but I've taken to rewarding myself for my hard work with a long, soaking bubble bath in our clawfoot tub every night. And my nails are at least clean by bedtime, even if they've been torn up a bit during the day. But the right index finger just hasn't come clean, and it's been over a week. It looks so dirty. I had to wear nail polish to conceal it when I went to my canning class yesterday. First time I've bothered with nail polish since the gardening started. But anyway, I really looked at the dirt when I tried to clean it out, so I know what it looked like yesterday. Today, it definitely looks like there was more of it, not less. It's weird looking, too. I can't really put my finger on it, but it looks different than the dirty fingernails I've come to know and love this spring. April 12th. Okay, now I'm more than annoyed. The dirty fingernail stuff is now spreading onto the tip of my finger. It looks like I dipped the tip of my finger in some type of dye. I'm making an appointment at the doctor's. I hope it's not some type of skin cancer. Doug noticed it too, and he's taking off work to come with me to the doctor. I love him so much. April 20th. Well, I met my new doctor, and she's really nice. I'm glad she's not the type to try and pretend she knows everything. She was very honest and said she had no idea what it was. She checked my circulation and nerves and movement and everything, and it was all normal. She said she was reassured that the dark color is just on the surface layer of the skin, not down to the lower layers, where she would expect a skin cancer to arise. Now that she points it out, I can see it too. It seems like it should just rub off the surface, except it won't. She's referred me to a dermatologist. Unfortunately, the first appointment isn't for a month. April 27th. I had the follow-up appointment with my doctor today. The black color is already spread up to the knuckle of my finger. She tried not to scare me, but she looked really concerned. She telephoned the dermatologist herself, right while I was in the exam room. She got me an emergency appointment for tomorrow. It's a bit of a drive. I'm glad Doug's job is letting him take off all this time to come with me. If I get bad news, it would be really hard to drive home alone. April 28th. I saw the dermatologist. I wish I could say more, but he pretty much just popped in and out. He had his secretary schedule me for pee time next week, which I gather means procedure time. He wants a biopsy, but he doesn't want to do them the same day as the office visit. I'll have to wait another week for more information. I'm getting nervous now. I was hoping he'd say, "Oh, that's just finger blackanosis temporea. I think it goes away by itself in 2 months." I was happy to have a primary care doctor who was willing to admit what she doesn't know, but it doesn't make me feel so good when the specialist doesn't know either. May 5th. The dermatologist took a little punch biopsy on the side of the finger. It's a round hole cut into the skin with a little tubular blade knife, about 1/4 inch across. The punch comes out in the center of the tube of the blade and gets sent off to the lab. Fortunately, the scar won't be very noticeable. Unfortunately, that's because he had plenty of skin to choose from. He took a piece at the edge to the enlarging black area, where it is spreading over the normal skin. It's halfway to the next knuckle now. I've stopped attending canning class because I can't conceal this black fingertip. May 15th. Oh my God. It's like the biopsy lit a match to a pile of oily rags. The black color has stopped spreading in a continuous front and has burst into this branching pattern around my hand. It's almost pretty, like a henna tattoo, but it's not a healthy brown color like henna. It's this unnatural gray, blue, black color that doesn't look like anything that ought to be on human skin. I'm keeping my gardening gloves on, even in the house, even when there are no workers around. I can't stand to look at it. But then I go to the bedroom by myself and pull off the glove to look anyway. It's like a train wreck in slow motion where you can't stand to watch, but you can't look away either. May 20th. Back to see the dermatologist today. The biopsy showed nothing. I mean, seriously, nothing at all. They couldn't even distinguish the black area from the normal area of the skin under the microscope. The dermatologist wasn't all rush in and out like he's been before. He sat down and really talked to me today. He looked pretty unnerved to see the branching pattern that has started. And when he checked the biopsy site, there was no scab, no scar, nothing. It's like there never was a wound at all. He was kind of apologetic and said something about fixative and decoloration and whatever. Like, there must be some explanation for the non-diagnostic biopsy, but he clearly had no idea what the explanation was. He asked me to come to the Dermatology Society meetings next week. Apparently, all of the interesting patients are invited to sit in little rooms where dermatologists from all over the area march in and out, giving their opinions about the diagnosis. It sounds demeaning, but at this point, I want all the smart people I can get looking at this. I'm getting scared. It doesn't help that I've pretty much got no one to talk to except Doug. June 2nd. Well, the dermatology meeting was a surreal experience. Who knew there was enough work to employ so many dermatologists in this area? They brought their residents and students with them too. They shuttled in and out of the little room where I was sitting all afternoon. Some of them were nice and tried to be reassuring, but others had horrible bedside manners and just talked among themselves as if I wasn't there. One self-important jerk was spouting off about how it was obviously dendro something, argro what's it, and how a biopsy would clearly show granules of something. Then one of the students innocently asked about the biopsy that had already been done, which he would have known about if he had read my history before opening his big mouth. It would have been funny watching him sputter and backtrack while looking for the non-existent punch biopsy scar. Funny, that is, if it weren't my arm he were talking about. The black, twisting tendril pattern is up past my elbow now. The branching pattern isn't like anything a henna artist would have done either. The angles are ugly and sharp, and the tendrils look as if they are covered with stubby, hairy roots, but it still just looks like a color change on the surface with no change in the texture. The dermatologists were feeling my arm all over, looking for something with texture, thinking it would be worth biopsying. I'm almost ready to let them take the whole damn arm if it stops this thing from overtaking the rest of my body. It shows no signs of slowing down or of being satisfied with the part of my body it has claimed so far. I'm still working the garden, of course. It's the only thing that keeps me sane. We've got delicious fresh greens for our salads now. Doug baked homemade bread last weekend. He's doing most of the cooking. His job has let him cut back on his hours, thank goodness. I'm afraid to touch the food we eat with my bare skin. Not having neighbors in walking distance is seeming like a real advantage now. We haven't had any workmen at the house in a while. The projects they had started will just have to stay half finished. June 13th. I want to cry. It's over my shoulder, onto my breast, and up on my neck. I won't be able to keep it under my clothes very much longer. I don't want to be a hideous monster when I go out, even though I don't go anywhere but doctor's appointments anymore. The dermatologist did another biopsy, and it still looked like completely normal skin. Everyone is mystified, and frankly, if they weren't trying to be professional, I think they would be freaking out. They wear plastic gowns and gloves just walking into the exam room with me now. They prescribed a bleaching cream. I'm not even thinking of having the baby anymore. We haven't had sex in weeks. I keep my skin completely covered in bed, even though it's getting pretty warm out now. Doug is so supportive. He tells me how beautiful I am every chance he gets, and he seems to believe it. I will treasure those words, even though I think he's deluding himself when he says them. I am so lucky to have a man like him. June 29th. Onto the face. It has spread up the neck onto my chin. I'm trying not to let my food touch it as I eat. I don't know if it makes any difference. I wasn't being careful like this when it first started. Maybe the same thing is happening on my insides, and I don't even know it. The bleaching cream has had no effect at all. The dermatologist started me on steroid pills. I told Doug we should sleep separately. I don't want him to be infected with whatever this is. He wouldn't hear of it. He says he won't let me do this alone, even if he ends up in the same condition, even though neither of us know where it will end. I am so blessed to have him. July 8th. Do I even care what I look like anymore? I'm getting fat on the steroids, and the creeping blackness just keeps spreading. And just when I had resigned myself to a future as a sideshow freak, I woke up today to see a tendril spreading into my nostril. Oh my God, what happens now? Sasha has suddenly started behaving strangely. She whimpers and slinks out of the room when I walk in. I know she's a dog and can't help how she behaves, but I feel so dirty. Doug moved her kennel farther from the house, and we're letting her stay out all night. What with the summer weather and all the land to run around in. July 20th. I've never had a headache this bad in my life. Doug drove me to the emergency room at Greenfield Hospital. We're both realizing this is much more than a skin problem. They shone lights in my eyes and pricked me with pins and had me walk in a straight line like a drunk they pulled over on the road. It was kind of comical, with them all in their gowns and masks trying to do exams without getting too close to my skin. They didn't find anything wrong. They did a CAT scan anyway. Normal, what else? And told me to see the neurologist at the teaching hospital. I hope that's not another long wait. July 27th. I got to see a neurologist today. My primary doctor called in some favors to move up the appointment, I think, because the secretary wanted to give me an appointment in October when I called. Strange to say, the headaches had stopped by yesterday, though. I've just got a weird runny nose, which they thought was interesting. They did all the same exams the ER did, plus a bunch of extra ones, none of which showed much. They set up an MRI for next week. August 4th. Doug has been so calm through all this. He's been my rock when all I could do was curl up in a ball and sob. But this morning, when he looked at me, he did a little shriek before he could catch himself. The black stuff is spreading out the corner of my right eye, onto the surface of the eyeball. It's like it came up through the nose and out the little hole in the corner of my lower eyelid. I got into the ophthalmologist today. At least I can get prompt appointments now. I think they must have presented my case at a hospital conference, so everyone knew the results of my normal MRI even before I did. There were a lot of students there today, all in their gowns and hoods and masks. The word must have gone out that I would be coming in. At least I've achieved my career goal as a sideshow freak. But they had nothing to offer. They gave me some steroid eye drops, even though I'm still on the steroid pills with no apparent effect. August 14th. It's on both my eyes now, just spreading over the surface of the eyeball. But it's made my vision dimmer. It's like wearing sunglasses all the time. I'm in the garden as much as possible, keeping busy, and I can see pretty well out in the sunlight. Indoors, it's getting more difficult, though. I don't know where it will end. Doug set up my computer to read text out loud, so I can still keep up this journal. I saw a rheumatologist, and now I have a prescription for something called cytoxin. That gets reserved for potentially fatal immune conditions. Oh, crap. August 25th. Doug saw some really pretty garden gloves with a floral pattern on them and brought them for me. He wants me to feel pretty, even if I can't stand to look at my own skin. I wish I could see them. It's getting hard to find weeds by touch, and I dare not go without gloves when weeding plants we're going to eat. Doug's been helping in the garden now, while I watch. It helps to have company. He's taken off work completely now. I really appreciate that. The loss of vision seems to be heightening my other senses, though. My hearing is getting really acute. I can hear noise from some machine working inside the house. Doug can't hear it at all. He doesn't even believe there is any machine, since the house is so old. But I can hear it. Someone must have installed it sometime or another. It just chugs and whirs all day and night. September 3rd. I'm trying to find the radio that's been playing all night. Doug keeps trying to get me to rest by telling me there's no radio and I should come to bed. It's sweet of him, but there's no way he could not be hearing this. It's some kind of talk radio. though I can't really make out what they're saying. I think a worker must have dropped it into a wall when he was working, and it turned itself on somehow. I didn't even know the Amish listened to radios. September 12th. Oh my God, it's all obvious now. There are women in this house. I can hear them talking to Doug. He pretended to go out to get groceries this morning, but I could still hear him here, talking to them. He must have done something to me to make this black disease happen, and now that I can't see, he's brought these women into our house. They think I can't hear them, but my ears are too good for them to hide. September 15th. So happy that I had the presence of mind to put passwords on this journal. I don't want them to know what I know about them. Doug seriously thinks that if he tells me there's no one in this house besides the two of us, that I will believe him. He tried to talk me into going to a psychiatrist, but even he had to admit that it would be hard to find a psychiatrist who wouldn't be too terrified of my appearance to talk to me. Now I understand why Doug isn't afraid even though all the doctors are. He can control this thing. I don't know how the women are getting in and out because I don't hear the doors or windows opening. There must be some secret passageways in this old house. I'm going to try to find them. I'm busy putting up my canning now, but I'm hiding some of the jars in the old spring house in case I need them. I'm completely dependent on Doug to do grocery shopping now, and I see that as a vulnerability. I put extra canned foods on the shopping list to hide them too. So far, he hasn't noticed that I'm not really eating all the soup and beans he's bringing home. September 26th. The noise around here is keeping me up day and night. The women have brought their children into the house and they're screaming and crying at all hours. I hope they're crying because they're scared of seeing me. I wish I could see them. I had no idea Doug was fathering all these children with other women when he was acting all concerned about my health during pregnancy. Even Sasha won't come into the house despite the cold nights. I'm still trying to find the secret passageways. I can't let Doug know that's what I'm doing. I tell him I'm doing rehab work on the basement, now that I can't work in my garden, and he seems to be satisfied with letting me tear out the lathing down there. He stopped trying to make me sleep in the bedroom. How could I sleep? At least when I'm on the internet researching about old houses and secret passageways. Listening to the audible text on my headphones blocks out some of the noise. October 6th. Guess I had to know it was coming. I overheard the women talking to Doug about getting rid of me. I guess they're tired of me scaring their children. They're going to find a way to poison me and bury me in the garden I created myself. They are so evil, and Doug is going along with them? Why don't they just take their brats and leave, if they don't like the way I look? My appearance must be getting pretty bad by now, so I guess it's good I can't see myself in the mirror anymore. I might want to commit suicide myself. I now eat nothing unless it comes in a can that I open myself. I feel the surfaces of the cans carefully before I open them, and I listen for a sound that tells me there was a good seal, just in case they might try to inject something into the can to poison me. I'm still stashing canned goods in the spring house too, in case they do all drive off and leave me alone. October 10th. I have to make my move tonight. They're talking about setting the house on fire when I go to sleep. I'm terrified of being burned alive. The thought of trying to feel my way out of a burning building is filling up my head. I can't think of anything else. From now on, I must stay awake until I make my move. October 11th. I did it. I gave them no reason to suspect. While the women were all in the kitchen with their brats, laughing about how they were going to kill me, I felt my way very quietly into the bedroom. Doug was snoring and never skipped a breath until my spade came down on his snoring head. It was such a relief to lie down in my own bed and sleep. To think of all the times I slept next to him, as if he were my protector. Now, it was knowing that he was lying there, unable to hurt me, that brought me such comfort. Wait until his women find out why he wasn't able to come down to breakfast today. They and their brats will have to face me without Doug as a go-between now. I removed all the fuses from the old fuse box in the basement, so there will be no more lights. If the lack of electricity doesn't convince them to move out, I'll do whatever is necessary. Tonight, I'm going to hunt every one of them down in the dark where they have no advantage over me. November 1st. I am so miserable. I still hear them. And I still hear Doug. So who is the rotting corpse I have been sleeping next to? It must be witchcraft. Those witch women substituted some demon with a Doug voice for my sweet husband, then left the real Doug in my bed when they saw me creeping upstairs with my spade. I've killed him, and they still live in my house. I've hung up my homegrown garlic everywhere. I've swung my spade wildly against the voices, smashing furniture and walls. I felt the ground of my garden for the soft leaves of my sage and burned it in every room. But I still can't make them leave or even shut up. I'm running out of canned food. Sasha won't eat the food I put outside for her, and no one else seems interested in feeding her. I haven't even heard her whimpering lately. So maybe she's run away. I wish I could run away. I have only one option available to me. I don't want to wait for their creeping black spell to destroy me. I must die as a woman, or what's left of one. I must bring a knife to bed with me tonight, and drive it into my own heart, lying next to the real Doug, whom I have misjudged. May his soul forgive me for my doubt.
End of journal entries. Postscript. The coroner ruled this a murder-suicide. There was no evidence of any people in the home besides Douglas and Elaine Anderson, the decedents. The journal clearly outlines her impaired mental capacity at the time of the murder. By the time the bodies were discovered, there was so much decomposition that the condition affecting Elaine Anderson's skin was difficult to evaluate, and the necropsy specimens provided no information. I was the technician assisting the autopsies in the county medical examiner's office. After reading this journal, I am in shock. I nicked myself with a scalpel during her autopsy.